Welcome back, campers. I'm Jersh.
And I'm Mears.
And we're the Modern Campfire Crew, huddled around our computers to review movies and discuss things pop culture at some point. In this episode, we are going to review the movie Poor Things. This movie was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, with a screenplay by Tony McNamara based on the book by Alistair Gray that came out in like 1991 or 1992. It stars Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe. It is nominated for 11 Academy Awards, which I will talk about in maybe when we start to rate it or go into spoilers. I don't know. Maybe I should talk about it right now. Anyway, we're going to do a spoiler-free section first, where we don't spoil anything about the movie, and then we will have a spoiler-filled discussion. I know for myself, I didn't know anything about this movie before I watched it. I never saw a trailer. I never read a synopsis. I knew that Emma Stone was involved, and I think I heard at some point Mark Ruffalo was in it, but I didn't know what to the level of which his involvement was. If it was a cameo or if he was another lead, I didn't know. I did know that it was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, and I am a fan of his work. Some past movies include Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Lobster, and The Favorite. I wasn't as high on The Favorite as everybody else. So Mears, what's your familiarity with Yorgos Lanthimos? What did you know about this movie, and what did you think of it?
So my familiarity with the director is I have seen Killing of a Sacred Deer several years ago. I think when it finally came to Netflix or something, I had been, because I saw the trailer whenever it came out, and I was extremely interested in it, and I kind of kept it on my radar for years until it hit streaming, and I loved it. It was the weirdest movie I'd ever seen. I felt uncomfortable the entire time, but I loved it. I thought it was great. And then for this, it's like the universe was trying to spoil it for me. Like everywhere I went, it was like, oh, here's a little bit, and I was like, no. I saw, yeah, I didn't even know that Willem Dafoe was in it
I didn't either.
until I happened to be watching the SAG Awards, and it was it started showing a clip from the movie of him, and I was like, no, 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 I didn't want to know he was in it. But I didn't know Mark Ruffalo was in it. I had luckily avoided that, and I didn't know anything about it other than I saw it was at the BAFTAs. David Tennant, whom I love, was doing his opening monologue, and then he starts kind of describing the movies, and that was the first one that he mentioned, and he just got out just a brief bit that we learned in the first 20 minutes. So I
Okay.
wasn't as upset about it, but I knew until it got revealed. Towards the beginning I knew kind of what was going on, but it wasn't exactly what was going on, so I was glad that I didn't know some specific things about it. But um I really loved this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. I thought it was also weird. It gave me feelings of Tim Burton throughout it. If you
Mm.
had told me Tim Burton directed it, I would have believed you. Um a lot of it that was the font used.
Yeah.
And then just kind of the oversaturated colors in it, and using black and white in color, and it just I had the feeling of Tim Burton. Um, I loved the progression of the main character, where she started, where she ended up, and I love the pace that went, because I can't pinpoint exactly when I mean, you could pinpoint maybe certain scenes in the movie where this is an important moment for her,
Mm-hmm.
but not where I could tell that her um I'll say her mind was changing
Mm-hmm.
without being too spoilery.
Sure.
I can't pinpoint a single I felt that was done very well, and a very gradual way. And I thought the performances were great. There was one performance in particular that I thought stole the show and was the
Mm.
best part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was shocked at things. I exclaimed, "Oh my God," several times. I couldn't believe certain things were shown. And I'm glad but I watched it with nobody around.
Yeah, not a family film for sure.
No.
Um, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what you're referring to when you say you had the first significant plot point spoiled for you. I did not have that spoiled for me, so I was very confused. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" Clearly, the makers of this film have never seen Tropic Thunder because you never go full. And I was like, they are, how the hell are they getting away with it? There has to be. And like, as I was having those thoughts, I was like, there 1,000% is more to this. This can't be the whole fucking movie. And sure enough, yeah, within that first act, you start to get more information. I'll be honest, like, I know Maestro got a lot of flack for like being Oscar bait, but the opening 20 or 30 minutes, I was feeling like this is Oscar bait, high concept idea, taking A-list actors at the top of their game and making them do things you'd never in a million years predict you'd see them do. Giving it their all for the character and for the movie. The music was just like, again, like, yeah, like Danny Elfman, like trying to be Danny Elfman, and what I mean is just like, it's like I could see it trying to be this weird Best Picture nominee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as it went on, and as it became apparent to me through the storytelling of the movie exactly what they were doing and all of the different other characters that it get introduced on the journey, I really started to fall in love with it. And I'm not a very big Emma Stone fan, obviously, and I feel like she was great. She did a really good job in this.
Mm-hmm.
She was given a role that let her exude a variety of personality and emotion in a really believable way in an unbelievable situation. Um, and yeah, I really loved it. I will say it reminds me of a couple other movies or premises that I've seen before. But when you get as far as we have with storytelling and filmmaking, it isn't always so much what the story is, but how you tell it. You know what I mean? Like your version, your interpretation. And I really think how this director Yorgos sees the world is really different than your average storyteller and filmmaker, because it's like there's this there's a through line through all of his movies, just this nihilism, this dark humor, this matter of factness, this explicitness that you really don't see anywhere else, literally and figuratively. And yeah, so the performances, the cinematography, it's not a spoiler to say that there's some fisheye lens use in this movie, because he's used that in all of his movies. It's interesting. I still struggle to understand the why, except for it's a flourish, it's a
Yeah.
look that he likes. Like the way Wes Anderson uses symmetry. It's like he just likes it. He just wants his movie to look like this, not really a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the color palette was beautiful, performances, the costumes, the locations. I do wish some of the stuff revealed in the third act had been teased out a little bit more. I feel there would have been a little bit more of an emotional weight, an emotional sting when things started to happen and build up towards the end
Specific
of the movie.
character.
Yeah.
Which,
I
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, no spoilers. I understand why. I on one hand, I feel like I'm going to say this later. It's like on one hand, I understand why they did it. You wanted to keep it a mystery for a reveal, and it's a pretty effective reveal. But I feel as an audience member, if we had known some things and then some characters show up, I think things would have hit us harder instead of more
Yeah.
confusion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there would have been just a little bit more of an emotional reaction from me from there, where I was just like, man, I wish I knew some of this stuff earlier so that we could have built up to this.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't. And that's fine. But yeah, all of the characters, it really does. It does what all great stories do, which is it starts this disparate, strange world with these characters and performers that don't seem, you can't make heads or tails out of them, and they don't seem to make any sense. But then by the end, it's like you can't imagine the world not consisting of these characters together after everything that they've been through and where things end up. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really ended up loving it quite a bit, and I am excited to talk, I guess, spoilers. I really do feel a lot of the fun of this movie is A, finding out that initial premise, um, and then B, just kind of seeing how that premise unfolds. Anything else you want to add in the spoiler free section before we get to ratings? Was there anything you didn't like or that didn't maybe jive with you so much as you think about it?
Um, I was trying to think whenever I was deciding on my rating, um, if there was anything that was going to bring the score down. Um, I don't know. I can't really, except for like what you just mentioned, where like with the third act, and now like that's got me thinking a little bit more. That maybe it could have been a little bit tighter in certain places. Um, being nitpicky really would be like the only thing that I would find. There wasn't anything that like really bugged me about it. There
Right.
wasn't, I mean, there could have been some of the, I'll say, I guess, uncomfortable scenes could have maybe been cut back a little bit,
Yeah, there's some controversy
because a lot of
online
it was with
if.
the same person. So
Hmm.
it wasn't, you know what I'm talking about in that section of it. Now in the later we understand obviously, but there could have been a little, it could have been a little more uh uh tell instead of show. Um, but that's really it.
Yeah, I will say I do have a couple more cons that I think are kind of spoilery. So there are a few things that kind of again hold it back for me, but yeah, I really enjoyed everything about it, and especially with the magic of hindsight, where things started, where things ended. Um, I'm just like, okay, yeah. What else? What the hell else can I, a movie snob, want from a movie except for A-list performances from A-list actors, memorable music, amazing cinematography, a unique and quirky story with some shocking, never forget them moments. It's like it's literally everything you want, and there's a little bit of something to take away where just it big picture life stuff to kind of realize and think about and assess. Um, so yeah, I really liked it. What are you going to give it for a score?
So I think that I'm going to give it a 9.5. And but now I don't know, maybe I should give it a 10. I mean, I gave, another movie that we reviewed, I gave a 10. And I am wondering, did I like this one more than that? Did I like him the same?
I was going to
I
say
mean,
it's
there's
apples
people
and
told me different
oranges,
movies.
but yeah, they're not. It's not apples and oranges. Um, it's not exactly. They're not even in the same sport as far as tone.
Yeah.
But is there a movie like what movie do you want to rewatch first? What's your knee jerk thought to that?
Um, Honestly, and this might be crazy, I probably would want to watch the other movie. I would rewatch that first.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Um, yeah. Because it was, well, like I had a more of an emotional response from that, and I love
True,
when
fair.
a film
Mm.
gives me an emotional response. I think that that's like a true sign of a great film. If you can evoke an emotional response from your audience. This one, I could have had an emotional response. There was definitely times where there could have been, where I might have shed a tear. Um, but I didn't, so I'll keep it at a 9.5.
That's fair. Yeah, I would say that the entire time I was watching it, I was very aware I was watching a movie. It just like, like I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, I never because it's so unique and because it's so strange. You're just always very aware of, it's almost like watching a play where it's like I'm here, I'm with you, but this is a performance, like for sure.
But hey,
Like
this is a
I
movie.
never
Look at this
thought
fancy camera.
yeah, I never thought in a million years that like what I was seeing was real, if that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, I'm also at a 9.5. I can't believe how much I really enjoyed it after the confusing, almost try hard opening 20 minutes of like, strange for strange sake,
Yeah.
and just, off-putting and like begging the audience to give up and not even, find out what's going on. And then finally information starts to get revealed, and as it and then when a character in particular makes their presence known and kind of takes over a big portion of the movie, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, fine. So yeah, so we're both at a 9.5, spoiler free. Let's go ahead and dive into spoilers for Poor Things right now. Full spoiler warning for the movie Poor Things. If you have not seen the movie yet, it is nominated for an 11 Academy Awards and is now available to purchase on Apple. I do not regret the purchase one iota. I'm definitely going to rewatch this movie throughout my lifetime. It's a shame I don't like Emma Stone more. I can only imagine the controversy surround, again, like the year of A-list stars just throwing their bodies at these movies. So yeah, full spoiler warning. Nothing is off the table. I guess let me list off the Academy Awards that it's nominated for, since I brought it up, and then I want to ask you a specific question. So it is nominated for 11 Academy Awards. Okay, best makeup and hair, best costume, best production, best music, cinematography, editing, adapted screenplay, Best Supporting Actor Mark Ruffalo, Best Lead Actress Emma Stone, Best Director Yorgos, and Best Picture. 11 Academy Awards. Insane.
Wow.
Let me ask you, and maybe you looked this up in trivia, but I didn't. What do you think are the poor things? What do you think the title means?
I was thinking of asking you that question. Um, I yeah, maybe it's the I don't know, maybe the rest of humanity are the poor things. Maybe the people that don't go on the journey that she went on, from being, a literal baby to you know, discovering everything, learning how to speak, learning, how to do all these other stuff. Within, and I'm not even sure what the span, like what the time span is supposed to be, because I don't think they don't say, right?
Mm-mm.
Like if it's a year, if it's, you know, just a
My guess
summer.
was a few months, was my guess, because she doesn't
Yeah,
really age, and yeah.
because they made it seem like, well, because the one thing they said was that her hair grew like an inch every like couple days or something,
Mm-hmm.
or every week or something. So it was also kind of like going by like the length of her hair, because I don't think she ever cut it.
Right.
And then I kind of took the like, we're going to Lisbon on a trip, and that it was going to be just like a short little like getaway. Because he was like, oh, I was gonna leave you after this, but now I'm in love. Um, I Yeah, at first I thought maybe it was the animals and people that God um Frankensteinized could be the poor things, which that's some of the most insane. That was so shocking to me, to see a dog's head on a chicken's body or a duck's body, to see a
Chicken
chicken
pig.
barking,
Mm-hmm.
to see, I mean, I was like, oh, what is this movie? I was so shocked at the beginning that like, I'm like, this, people watched this, people liked this. 'Cause I'm like, that's not. It seemed like it was something only like film nerds would like.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of, but as it got through, I was like, okay, I understand why like more general audiences would like it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, poor things. I don't know. I know she says the line. She says, "Poor Bella," when he tells her that she's an orphan.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know. It never comes up later, I don't believe. Um,
Well, I think it
I
is.
don't,
It's humanity. That's my guess. It's just people in general, and the what's beautiful about the Bella character is she basically Benjamin Buttons her way through life and accelerates through, you know, being, she starts as a baby, then adolescence, then puberty, then teenager, then full on adulthood. Her language improves and her intelligence improves, and I love that was like my favorite. I loved the script. I loved the lines of dialogue, how they were delivered, how she started simple, and how, but because she had that scientist for a dad, she still kind of knew some sort of big words, and that just kind of that trajectory stayed
Hmm.
true to the character. So not only is she experiencing basically an entire life from baby, to wisdom, but uh, she's also a witness to it as an outsider, right? So she's seeing how other people are acting, that the debauchery of Mark Ruffalo, the nihilism of the guests on the boat that say don't believe in capitalism, don't believe in religion, don't believe in socialism, don't believe in anything. They've just kind of given up altogether. And then she's seeing, and then like the people that you know get into sex work, maybe they don't like it, maybe they're proud of it, maybe they're judged for it, whatever. Like, she's seeing all of these things as an outsider, but she's also an active participant going through it at an accelerated rate. It's basically Billy Madison. But yeah, so I think Poor Things is people, is us. We are the poor things because we are what we are and we can't help ourselves. You know what I mean? For better and worse. um but yeah, so um yeah, there was a couple of movies that this reminded me of. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. There's a movie called Jack starring Robin Williams. Have you ever heard of that movie?
I've heard of it. I've never. I might have seen like a couple scenes from it, but I know what it. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, the premise is that he ages faster than his mind can. So like when the movie starts, he's 10, but he's Robin Williams' 40-year-old body, right?
Right.
There's another movie that I've never seen, but I know the premise of. It's called Chappie. Have you ever heard of that or seen that?
I have seen my dad's watched it, and I've seen parts of it. I know D'Antwoord is in it, the South African. They have a very interesting style of music.
Well, anyway, that so
I know that
that
they're in it. Yeah.
but the premise of that movie is that a robot named Chappie is like built and is a clean slate, but then it like grows up and like spends different time with different people and like basically learns bad lessons, that like turns bad because it learned from humanity, that kind of thing. So this was like kind of, really reminiscent of a lot of other movies that have already been made. But to the film's credit, it's based on a book that was written several years ago, 30 years ago. So it was ahead of its time. And as far as I know, Yorgos, they got the rights. They had like a short uh, discussion about the movie, and I believe the original author of the book sadly passed away at like 80 years old before this movie came out. Um, but I mean, it only took him 30 years to get his book turned into a movie, so I just need to wait that long, right, for my book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I have to. I won't steal your thunder, but who do you think steals the show?
Mark Ruffalo.
Of course, yeah, yeah,
I love him anyway. He's like
yeah.
one of my favorites. I've always loved him. Even before he was um Hulk, I've
Mm-hmm.
loved him. And I loved his fake British accent that was like goofy sometimes, the way
I
he said
mm,
things. I loved him just going from like 0 to 100 on the insanity scale. The way she was literally driving him mad. He was like pulling his hair out. I believe it was like outside of the brothel. He was
yeah.
screaming Bella. Like, I mean, just crazy off the wall. Loved, loved, loved him. And I didn't, even though I didn't know he was going to be in it, but I also didn't expect him to be such a huge part of it. Like, she spent a large chunk of the movie with him, and then just cast him aside. And the fact that he like even would still want to come back after all she did to him, and like clearly they don't need to be together. Um, but yeah, he was the best part for sure.
It was obviously an extreme movie with extreme examples, but this idea of a toxic relationship and not being able to leave a person that isn't good for you, I think is very relatable. And a lot of people experience that. And I love, again, it also really reminded me of The Invention of Lying, the Ricky Gervais movie I think I've mentioned once or twice, where so in The Invention of Lying, they live in a world where nobody can lie. So it's like, how's
Right.
your day? Oh, well, it's shit. I was thinking about my dead parents and I ran out of gas and I'm really embarrassed about that. And I wish I didn't have to tell you that right now. Like, it's all brutally honest and people don't have any inner dialogue because then it would let them lie. So, just the matter of factness that Bella was like, being around you is like making me feel like shit. Like I don't want to be around you anymore. And it's like it's so weird. I couldn't wait to see you, and now I can't wait to get rid of you. Like it just is like that's like so relatable and so like direct. Um, but yeah, I so with Ruffalo, yeah, I loved it. And again, the magic of not watching trailers and the magic of storytelling. Didn't I? I think I just said the other night randomly in a conversation we had, like, I love finding out who's gonna matter in a story. I didn't know Mark
Hmm.
Ruffalo was gonna. I didn't know if it was a
Yeah.
cameo. I didn't know if he was gonna. What the situation was. But yeah, like the moment he's on scene, he whisks her away and takes the entire second act of the movie. It's definitely like a two-person show at that point, the Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo show.
Hmm.
Um,
And I'll be honest, I was glad that his character came in and took her away because I was like, this is not a good situation for her to be in with
mhm.
uh McCandles and Gone. And I was like, I feel like this is not going to be good. And then whenever even though he, right off the bat was being really creepy, um, I thought that it was good that he came in and like kind of got her away from that.
And it was so funny how she was like, "Oh, I'll have an adventure with you, but you're not the man I'm going to marry. I can tell that right
Yeah, I'm
now."
still engaged.
Yeah, and I just loved his character arc because I mean, it's storytelling 101 where it's like you start a character one way and you end them in the opposite, and that's how you get an arc, that's how you get a journey, that's rewarding as a viewer. And it's like, so I should have known, oh, this prim proper rich man is going to be homeless, jobless, institutionalized, pulling out his hair. I should have guessed that, but I didn't.
Who's
Um,
so like egotistical and full of himself
Yes, when
and
he's like, "You shouldn't fall in love with me. That would
yeah.
be the worst thing for you to do." And then he's like, "But I love you." It was awesome. Um, the thing that I loved his accent. I hated that I could tell it slipped quite a few times, where it just was like non-existent. It just wasn't there. And I mean, in the best ways, it kind of reminded me of Austin Powers, where it just was this over the top, I guess, British accent. I think it was supposed to be, yeah, England. Um,
Yeah.
what do you make of the Willem Dafoe character? His facial scars, his tubes, the burping bubbles, all these things.
Yeah, he was wild. It tickled me the more times that he mentioned like what his dad would do to him. Like it got worse and worse every time. And the thing about like his thumbs and like his thumbs were like like his fingers were flayed, I think, and he was like looking at like what makes up a finger, and that's how I stopped crying, and like, and oh, he removed this from me, and now I have to like I can't produce the chemicals to be able to do that. um it was interesting that he looked like Frankenstein's monster himself, but he was Dr. Frankenstein in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
He was cutting people up and he was cut up himself. And I think that's probably, to get deep, a people like hurt people type
Right.
thing. Like he experienced those things himself, and that's like all he knew what to do because it started as a kid. Um yeah, I think he had, it was crazy, but I think he had good intentions
Mm-hmm.
with her, where he's like, I found this person who was like
A literal dead
pretty
body in
much
the.
dead, was
Yeah.
clinging to life. I loved the reveal that she was pregnant. I gasped. Um and he was like, I can save her. What I knew was, what David Tennant had said was a child's brain put into a grown woman's body. So I was like, okay. So once I saw her, I was like, okay, so that's what that is. I didn't know it was a baby's brain. That's like what like
Her
messed
own
me up even
babies.
more. Her
Yeah.
own baby,
And that is
which was
such.
crazy.
That's such
Who
Edward
does that?
Scissorhands. Tim Burton is like the exact analogy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um.
I That disturbed me that it was her own. That you're that's so crazy. Um, that's a little weird that but in a way, he was saving. he was saving a baby's life, if you want to say. And
Yeah.
apparently it was far along enough where there was a formed brain.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked pretty far, like she was probably like
Mm-hmm.
9 months ready to go, which makes the whole thing even more sad. And I don't think he thought the baby was a monster.
No,
I
that's
don't think
his
she was calling the baby a
lies,
monster.
his
Her
bullshit.
asshole husband was
Mm-hmm.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, I think he meant well. I think um, the animals seemed happy. They didn't seem like they were in pain. Um,
And he wasn't
eh,
like an abuser the way that Max
no,
assumed. It was like very
right.
parental and platonic, and which he was a eunuch, which I thought that was a missed
Mhm.
opportunity. The fact that he was a eunuch and she was having a sexual awakening, I thought there was a missed opportunity to compare and contrast how these characters are
Mm,
finding value in their lives. Um,
yeah.
they kind of they kind of touched on it a little bit as far as like as you age and get out of puberty and stop worrying about reproducing, it becomes less and less important to you. They kind of touched on that with a couple on the boat. With the older woman who's like, "Oh, I don't care about
Yes.
that
Oh,
anymore," right? And she's
yeah.
like flabbergasted, like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?"
Like I
Um,
I love to furiously jump all the time. What are you talking about?
and the phrases and the dialogue was so good.
Like yeah,
Um,
like what a kid how a kid would describe it.
Yeah. And I also thought it was a slight missed opportunity to really talk about the procreational aspects of it and explain, why we have these feelings and why we're doing this. I thought there was another little bit of commentary about um, these compulsions that she is feeling that could have been maybe I just thought it would have been fun in this world with this dialogue to kind of talk about that. She never asked why. And you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like it's like babies almost never came up. It's like it was avoided on purpose because they were saving baby talk for the big reveal at the end, you know.
Yeah.
Um what else? The the explicitness. I can see both sides of it. On one hand, um, seeing her experience what she's going through, you can understand her actions of why she's chasing this adventure, this Mark Ruffalo, all of these, everything that she does, you appreciate it and understand it. And there was a little bit of social commentary about sex work and about her being a prisoner. And I thought
Mhm.
maybe it was gratuitous on purpose because it was like
Yeah.
women are taken advantage of all the time, and I didn't know if there was like a meta commentary there, but then it's like that doesn't work because you're doing the thing you're criticizing, even if you're criticizing
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean? But on the other hand, I can also see the PG-13 version where we you know she's wide-eyed over Mark Ruffalo and it's like we need to go to the other room, and then they go to the other room and then it like fades to black, and then you come back to
Mhm.
Emma Stone and it's like nothing else in life matters. It's like you could have
Yeah.
very easily kind of articulated
Mhm.
the same thing, but yeah, I think it was the choice of the director to keep it explicit, and I did not read. There wasn't a ton of trivia that I looked up because I watched this movie today, so I haven't had time to like go through a lot. But I did read some, and she was fully on board from the get go. She completely
Yeah.
agreed, and it does make sense from the character's perspective of, and it lessens it does pretty much make sense because it gets less gratuitous the older and more responsible she becomes and the more autonomy and control she has over her own body and herself. That kind of starts to go away because she learns, I feel,
Mhm.
maybe, I
Yeah.
don't know. That's my opinion of it. What else? So the black and white and the color at first was confusing to
Mhm.
me. In my on my own before I read anything, my interpretation was, oh, she was like a prisoner and now she's free. It's like she's a prisoner in black and white,
Yeah.
and it's freedom when it goes to color. And according to trivia, that's partially true, but it also had to do with the maturation of her brain because babies only see in black and white till around 4 or 5 months, and then they can see
Right.
in color. So it starts in black and white because she starts as a baby, and then the world becomes color as she gets older and gains more knowledge. And I thought that was really beautiful touch. And I love that if you don't understand it, the movie still works, but it's an added layer of appreciation on a rewatch, you know?
Mhm.
Um, I thought the music, I thought the music was great. It is a little CGA minor F-ish, whatever, in my, again, the music snob in me. But very effective, very powerful. Starts, again, the music matches the journey of the character. It starts so
Mhm.
juvenile and so simple, like children's bells, and then it's like as the
Mhm.
weight of reality and the world is becoming more and more apparent to her, the more serious and dramatic the music gets.
Mhm. And it was almost at the beginning, it kind of reminded me of like a silent film with it being black and white and the music being like so prominent. It just reminded me of like, like a live orchestra playing in a theater to a silent film. So I thought that
Mm-hmm.
that was cool. Yeah, immediately right off the bat, I was like, what is this music? And then by the end of it, I was like, I need to go get the score.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
want to I want to sit and listen to it.
Mm-hmm. So she goes through the journey with Ruffalo, and we get cutbacks to home, and they make another one. They make a Mrs.
Mhm.
Antonoff.
Yeah.
And what I took from that is it's like empty nest syndrome. I missed my baby, so I made another one. Right? My
Yeah.
baby grew up and flew the coop because Willem Dafoe's character straight up says, "We missed you. So I made another." That's just like,
Mhm.
okay, so you made another baby. Um, I I was a. Let me ask you this: do you think Willem Dafoe is supposed to actually be God?
No.
Okay.
I think that like his name, it was just a play on the fact that like he was her creator.
Mm-hmm.
And then he created this world of freaky, mashed up Frankenstein monster-esque things. Um, and yeah, I don't think he was actually supposed to be God.
I was almost really bummed out if that was the case because I won't say what movie in case you've never seen it, but there's another movie I've seen in the last 5 or 10 years that was a very specific allegory of this is God, this is Adam and Eve, this is Earth, this is the garden, and the whole point of the movie
Yeah.
was this is a metaphor for that. I'm like, well, that's fucking dumb. That's so dumb. Like once I know that, this is all boring. Like the movie doesn't stand on its own without that. So I was really glad, like as she left the world, there wasn't more like, and again, like forbidden fruit. It was an apple, that she first started to.
Right.
So which I mean, who among us hasn't lusted after our own fruits and vegetables?
Right.
It's so crazy.
And then she was
Um,
like, "Oh, and here, let me put this cucumber inside me." I was like, "Oh, like
and again,
not
it
not
was
safe. That's not hygienic."
so many adjectives of just shocking and hilarious and dark and you know um yeah, just and again like almost true to life, the way a child like, oh no, yeah, here's what you do, like it's like, just take this
Mhm.
crayon and color this picture. It's like that same mentality and attitude towards such an explicit acts was just like, you don't see it every day, you know what I
It
mean?
was it was it was all out of like she kept calling it like stuff an experiment. Like it was all out of wonder. Like there was no, and it was all for her own personal, like she didn't love Mark Ruffalo. I think she was probably infatuated with him at some points, and then like as you said, it got to the end where she was like, now I look at you and I feel anger. And but it was never if you want to argue that the only person she ever loved was McCandles, but she still kind of left him there towards the end,
Yeah.
in search of um her, past life, and an experiment. But yeah, it was all done with with wonder and like, oh, this is how this is.
Well, and I think Willem Dafoe's dying words were, "Look how interesting this all is," which is just like, you know, it's like a I don't even know what's the word I'm looking for. It's basically, that's life defined. That's
Mhm.
like, it just sums up the human experience so succinctly. Like, look how interesting this all is. Like, all of this, the ups and downs, the goods, the bads, the life, the death, it's
Mhm.
like falling in love, breaking up, trying to get married, being engaged, like just all the different things that life throws at you. He just was like, look at how interesting this all is. So I really thought that was fun. I also loved how when she comes back and to marry Max, and they're having a stroll, and she goes, "I love how practical our love is." It's like she's really matured and grown and cares about,
Mhm.
more things besides the physical. And he's like kind of defensive, and he's like, "Oh no, but I'm still like really passionate about you."
Passionate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so funny. Um, so the way that I thought this movie was going to end before the original husband comes back, which I definitely predicted that she was going to be recognized in public because she started as a different person. I didn't know when or how that would come up. Before I forget, the opening shot of her jumping off a bridge into the water reminded me of the opening of Bram Stoker's Dracula when
Mm.
Winona
Mhm.
Ryder's character, falls down. It was like, it almost like shot for shot reminded me exactly like that. Um, but I thought what was going to happen is she was going to get herself. I thought that she was going to get pregnant either by Mark Ruffalo or Max, and
I'm not surprised.
her adventuring was going to get her into a predicament where she gets attacked. We're going to learn about like the evils of the world and how you can't just say
Mm.
whatever you want to somebody, and you're going to learn a lesson. And she's mortally wounded, and I thought the doctor was going to start the cycle over, was going to excise her baby
Oh my
again
gosh.
and put a new brain in her and start over. That's how I thought it was going to end.
That would be
um
crazy.
yeah, can I see? But instead, what we got was this kind of third act. And again, like, I have mixed feelings about that third act because, on one hand, it's satisfying for the before to fill in the gaps of her character and to make sure she's where
Mhm.
she wants to be in her life, right? But on the other hand,
Mhm.
it's like I just spent 2 hours really, growing interested and connected to these characters. I would rather have 5 more minutes with Ruffalo in the insane asylum than be introduced to a new character 2 hours into a movie. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
um, but on the other hand, like, yes, just like, what a great way to like show how far she had come as a human being, based, given another chance at life to start over again, where she thought that life was not worth living, and now here she is wanting to experience everything life has to offer, just simply because she
Mhm.
changed her circumstances and got out of a bad situation, in a roundabout jump into a river and have a doctor put a baby brain in you
Right.
way of doing
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I thought it was kind of really interesting to see her in this original environment and how they were all just like thrown off by her attitude and not, really knowing who she was. Um, but yeah, and I also thought the husband getting the goat brain, it would have been way more satisfying if we had been introduced to this bad life in the beginning. Like, I would have been more
Mm.
shocked. I don't know, but yeah, what
Like
did you
if
think
we
of?
were if it was like teased that he um was like this crazy, insane, violent man early on, and it's like that's kind of lingering in the back, like what if he finds her type thing.
Right. Yeah, because then there would have been this kind of background tension, that ticking time bomb that Hitchcock always talked about, where you're waiting for an explosion to happen. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes.
Um, and so instead of starting with her at the bridge, I would have started 5 minutes earlier and showed her original life at the castle, what a bitch she was, how terrible she was to the service people, and how in love she was with being, or I guess she wasn't. That was a lie. But just show what type of person she was. So clearly she was evil because none of the staff liked her. But it must have been
Yeah.
out of depression and out because of his actions, right?
Yeah.
Then go to the
Yeah.
jump, because then I had a little bit of tension when her and Mark Ruffalo were out in public, but I would have had a lot more tension if I knew that monster was looking for her. You know what I mean?
Right. And I did feel it a little bit after she was recognized at that hotel when that woman like said her
Hmm.
name and I was like, okay, that's gonna come back later. But I wasn't as like I didn't think about that the rest of the
Yeah.
movie. Like, oh, what if um what how I thought that it was gonna end when Willem Dafoe's character was dying. I definitely thought that they were gonna take his brain and put it in her husband's body and let him live.
Oh, that would have
I was
worked
so I was
too.
really surprised that that's not what happened because I was like, oh, well, of course, he's been doing this to these other people. He saved, her life. Now they're gonna save his life and put him in like
Yeah, I feel like that's a
this
missed
younger
opportunity.
body. Yeah, but I
Or
did
into an
like
animal.
that. No, yeah, yeah, at least something that like would always be there and would be alive and he would have a happy life. But I did like that they did that to her husband because that's what he deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I wish they had done that and let him live. But maybe there's like a commentary on that like you don't always humans don't live forever.
The good ones die.
Um,
The ones who are
yeah,
tortured by their parents die, and the ones who are rich
yeah,
assholes with a gun in a mansion live.
yeah,
I guess he didn't really live. He's just a goat. He's actually dead. He's just a goat now.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, a very memorable movie. A movie that I will think about a lot. And again, just thinking about really relating to the different stages of life as a human being, seeing how she reacted to things, how I felt growing up, things that I would have done the same, things I wish I would have done different, and the type of kind of wisdom and peace that she finds at the end of the movie. I think that's the kind that we could all only hope for. So, very memorable movie, very well deserving of the nominations, and I think our Oscar prediction episode is continuing to heat up as we are rounding out
Mhm.
these Oscar movies. So, uh, yeah, let's get out of here and take us home.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to leave a comment, like, or subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Until next time.